All right, everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Ramblin Rams podcast here on the JT Sports Network. I'm James Torrillo here with my guy Jordan. Jordan, it's a shame the season has come to an end. Uh, I didn't think this would be our last episode of the season. Unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be. What are your instant thoughts?
Yeah, it's a tough loss. We played Seattle right to the end, just like we did the other two games. Just unfortunately, a couple things didn't go your way, just like last year. And for a third straight postseason, you find yourself sitting home in a situation where you feel like you should be moving on.
Yeah, I feel like I was talking to my dad about this morning. He said it was a stretch, but I want to hear your opinion. I feel like the Rams 2 years in a row lost the game that felt like the actual Super Bowl. Because last year, we were the only team that gave the Eagles a run for their money. They blew out every other team. And now this year, the Seahawks blow out the Niners. We give them a run for their money, and I think they're gonna beat up on the Patriots. But we'll get to that in a minute. Would you agree that it feels like the Rams could have been at least in the Super Bowl the last 2 years, and they didn't make it either year?
I definitely agree with that. I thought last year when we lost to the Eagles, like that was kind of the pseudo NFC championship because I was in the divisional round and we played the Eagles right to the end and they blew out every other team they played in the playoffs. It wasn't even close, but we were two plays away from beating them. And then this year, Seattle, we'll see how they finish off against the Patriots. It's hard to, predict that, a lot of things go into that. I think New England's got a shot. I don't think it's a guarantee. I mean, Seattle definitely looked great against us, but we definitely made a lot of mistakes, and the Patriots have played great football all year. So I think it'll be a really competitive Super Bowl. I don't think it'll be a blowout by any means.
Yeah, I could definitely see New England giving them a run for their money. I just feel like I don't I don't like the whole narrative that they had a cakewalk to the Super Bowl. I don't know if you've seen that with like, oh, they got to play Jared Stidham, CJ Stroud had a terrible game, and they played the Chargers in the first round with Justin Herbert, who hasn't won a playoff game ever, and they had the easy schedule in the league. I don't like that whole narrative because you play who you're in front of, and now they get a chance to prove themselves. And who knows, maybe they do get blown out, and they are not the team that everyone thinks they are. But you got to keep in mind they were 14-3. They still went on the road in bad conditions and beat the Broncos. And the Broncos have a great defense, but the Patriots defense was better, and that's just how it went. I don't mean to throw shade at the Patriots at all, but I do think the Seahawks are the better team, and I do think the Seahawks are going to be Super Bowl champions in 2 weeks. So there's definitely a lot to talk about. There's a lot to go into it. It sucks because I after the game was over last night, I think I sat there just like this for about a good 30 minutes, and then I just went up to a room and I went to bed, and I just couldn't stomach the fact that the season was over. And just like Sean McVay said, he thought he had at least 2 more weeks with his guys. Unfortunately, he does not, and it hurts. It really
Yeah.
hurts. I've been saying since February that the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl, and now it's not going to happen, and it really, really hurts. So, what was your? Where do you want to start with this game, Jordan? What do we want to go over first? There's so much to go over.
Yeah, starting off, I thought we got off to a decent start. I think a big swing that they talked about a lot. Brady and Kevin Burkhardt, I think, were the announcers. I thought they did a pretty good job. Not that it's relevant. They talked about how that last touchdown drive. We gave it back to them and they went down and made it 17-13 going into half.
Mm.
That was extremely unfortunate and kind of telling for you, unfortunately. And then, for me, just immediate biggest swings was like obviously the Xavier Smith fumble. I'm sorry, he can't be back next year under any circumstance. That was egregious. That he muffed the one punt. and hopped on it and recovered it, and I was like, okay, that's okay. And then you fumble again. And I said it on last week's episode. I hate to be right where it benefits the Seahawks, but I was like, Michael Dixon is one of the best punters in NFL history.
Yeah.
And he had, a historically great game. Tom Brady talked about it on the broadcast how I think Tom Brady said he was the best punter in the league in his opinion.
Yeah,
I'm
he
pretty
did.
sure, and that's coming from the goat. So I share that opinion with Tom Brady. Obviously, being a Rams fan, I've watched Michael Dixon his whole entire career, and he killed us. And Xavier Smith screwed the situation so bad that Kyron had to come in and. By that point, it was too late. The defense was horrific. They couldn't get a stop when we really needed them to. They didn't force a takeaway all day. Um, they let Sam Darnold shred them apart, and they were great against Sam Darnold all year. We would have loved to have Akello Witherspoon. I mean, who knows what would have happened. It's another year where I feel like Akello Witherspoon, we really needed him, and he's not quite at his best in the playoffs when we need him to be. He wasn't there this year, and it sucks because he's our best cornerback, and he certainly would have had an impact on that game. And last thing I'll say, I disagreed with the whole Cooper Cup first down at the end of the game.
I agree.
I didn't agree with that with that call. I'm like, either that's incomplete or he's short of the first down. It can't be the both. Either he's stretching it and it's a fumble because he's extending the play out and it's not dead, or it's incomplete because he didn't complete the play. Either way, we didn't challenge it. They called it a first down, and at that point, the defense couldn't get a stop, and it was basically game. Your guy Cooper Cup killed us. Our guy. I hate to see that, and I know you're rooting for the Seahawks, but I hate to say it. I'm a big sore loser, and I will be rooting for the Patriots in this game. I hate to say it.
I
I
don't blame you.
cannot lie.
I don't blame you. If it wasn't for one player and that one player being number 10 on the Seahawks, I'd be pulling for the Patriots big time. I do not like the Seahawks at all. Not because they beat us, just because they're a division rival. I don't like them at all, and I'm sure Seahawks fans would say that about us. But I do hope they win, just because arguably my favorite athlete of all time, tied with Clayton Kershaw and this guy I'm wearing today, uh, Kobe Bryant. He's my favorite athlete of all time, and I want to see him get another ring. And you saw, Matt Stafford after the game. He goes up to him. He's looking for him. He's like, where's number 10? Where's number 10? And he finds him. He's like, dude, go win your damn Super Bowl, bro. And Cup was like, you're incredible, dude. You're incredible. And it was just so awesome to see those two reunite. And I feel like I say this every 2 seconds since we released them, but I do want to point out something. Tutu Atwell once again did not play yesterday. Didn't play the last two playoff games. Let me pull this up. I actually found something that did the math. He had 1 second. He had guess how many receiving yards he had this season.
Oh, I don't even know. It was like less than 200, right?
192.
Yeah.
192 yards this season. He was making $10 million, which means he made $52,000 and $52,083.33 per yard. Per
Yeah.
yard. And we kept him over the guy we released, and that guy just sent us home. And I've been saying all year long, there was no need. I said this before the season started. I said there's no way we can pay Tutu Atwell $10 million under any circumstances, let alone pay him over paying Cooper Cup a little bit more money that we could definitely afford. And instead, Cooper Cup has the game-winning touchdown, a game-winning first down, and he's going to the Super Bowl, and Tutu Atwell wasn't even on the field. I think as Rams fans, we are owed an explanation from Les Snead and Sean McVay on why Cooper Cup was released and Tutu Atwell was kept, and then Tutu Atwell was not played. Because that is a waste of $10 million, and it's a waste of Rams legend as well in Cooper Cup. I think it's despicable. And I'm I'm so happy for Cooper Cup. I got his jersey hanging up right here. I got a signed jersey over there. There's no bigger Cooper Cup fan than me. I got the guy's high school jersey for crying out loud. I mean, but it kills me that he's going to the Super Bowl in a different uniform. It drives me nuts, and he should still be in this uniform. And if honestly, if he was, I think we'd be in the Super Bowl. I know that's crazy to say, but I think it's true.
No, I agree. That was I mean, that was the swing yesterday. Cooper Cup made the clutch plays. I mean, Puka nearly matched JSN, hit for hit, and Devontae was doing his thing. Kyron was, trying to match Kenneth Walker, which, by the way, defense did not do a good enough job on Kenneth Walker either. Also, another thing I was just thinking about the game, shout out Matthew Stafford. He had an incredible game. That fourth down run was, great. I wish we would have kicked that field goal right there. Hindsight's 2020. I don't know if it would have even mattered, but it was tough, man. If Cooper Cup does, go get another ring, hopefully it'll be enough to kind of nudge him into the Hall of Fame. I would love to see that. I'm a huge Cooper Cup fan, but it's just licking your wounds today, man. Right after that game, it's a tough one because, after that game, I still feel like we're the better team than Seattle. I feel like if we play that game 5 times, we win 3 out of 5 matchups. They just, they caught you making mistakes again, and you fumble that punt, and that was really, that was the biggest swing. That basically, you could have gone and got points there, but instead you give them a free touchdown where you get a stop, and then your defense basically didn't get a stop the rest of the game.
They got a
It's
three and
tough.
out, but gave up 7 points.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Exactly.
that's
It's tough.
inexcusable.
You got some pressure, but the pressure you did get, it just wasn't enough, and the secondary was just porous, and the run stop wasn't good enough either. It was just a bad defensive effort, and I like Chris Shula and I like some of these guys on defense, but like, man, I'm like still saying what I've been saying all these rounds in the playoffs, like our heart and soul, Aaron Donald as like when I could always rely on someone on the defense, like when we had 99 from, that 2018 to 2021, kind of era, I always knew if we needed to stop, Aaron, like Sean said in the Super Bowl, Aaron's going to make a play.
Yep.
And, I love our guys on defense, but we don't have that, man. We don't have that dominant X Factor Hall of Fame level superstar that we did with 99 or Jalen Ramsey or Von Miller. We just weren't quite as good as we were that year on defense. We weren't as sound as we were on special teams. And unfortunately, back to back years, we fall short.
It's really frustrating, dude. And it's like I said before, I feel like we're gonna lose to the Super Bowl champ 2 years in a row. I do think the Seahawks are gonna win the Super Bowl. Um, and obviously the Eagles won it last year and they beat us in the divisional round. So it hurts because it almost feels like, one extra thing goes our way or something that didn't go our way, maybe flips and does go our way. Maybe, just maybe, we'd be Super Bowl bound. And you could say that 2 years in a row. I mean, and I was talking to my dad earlier about it, and he was right. Like a lot could have happened. We still would have had to play the Redskins in the NFC Championship last year. Who knows what could happen? I think we would have won, but you never know. Then we would have had to play Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I think we would have won, but you never know. And then this year, we still would have had to play New England in the Super Bowl, and we know how that's gone in our past against New England in the Super Bowl. That scarred my whole childhood losing that game, but it hurts. It definitely hurts, and it's a shame because we've been doing this podcast since the beginning of the year, and we haven't come on this podcast once and been like this deflated. You know what I mean? Like it just sucks. It absolutely
Right.
sucks. But I know you wanted to get into the off season a little bit, or some guys that you do want to stick around and don't want to stick around. Let's start with QB1. You think Stafford plays another year?
Man, as far as what I'm hearing, he's gonna come back, and it's a tough situation because obviously, I said it, when we had the off year in 2022, when we're coming off the Super Bowl, and I felt like he was, as good as any quarterback can be, throwing 40 touchdowns in the regular season and then winning the Super Bowl. Um, he can stay as long as he wants as the Rams starting quarterback as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
He's earned that right with me. So if Stafford wants to come back next year, I mean, hell, by all means I'll have him. He's my quarterback at the end of the day. I think he's proven he's still got some juice left even if he's not, maybe quite in his physical prime. Mentally, he's all there and he played as good as anyone could have played yesterday. Yesterday was not on Stafford, even though, they didn't quite make the play to win the game at the end. I cannot blame Matthew Stafford for that loss. He played as good as he could have played. Um, yeah, it's tough because I'd have to look at the cap. I know we do have some money, and I loved what Byron Young was doing all year, man. But last week and this week, I'm like, man, where you at, man? You're a no show, and you're a Pro Bowl pass rusher, and I just can't justify paying you, man. We got Josiah Stewart. Deswan played better than you did in less reps, man. And I know Byron Young was nicked and he wasn't 100%. And I hate to see that, but it's like, man, the Sean McVay motto is be your best when your best is required. Well, your best was required yesterday, and you were by no means whatsoever your best. And we needed you. Yeah, so it's tough to see. We'll figure it out with the secondary. I know basically all those guys have like contract situations going on, and we'll figure all that out. Like I've always said with this team, I know we're coming off a couple disappointing years, despite the success that we have had. I still do trust management. I trust Sean McVay to get a competent roster, and they've been elite when it comes to drafting and developing and evaluating talent. So I'm sure they'll, figure out where to go as in terms of next year, and everyone's going to take a step back and kind of assess the situation in terms of Stafford and the heir apparent, whether we get that this year or we rock with it another year and just keep pushing it. Because I love Fernando Mendoza, but we're clearly, barring a miraculous trade, we're not going to get him. And I don't love any of these other quarterbacks. Chambliss has talent. I know I'm going on a little bit of rant here. I apologize, but
Don't be sorry.
Simpson's got talent too, but I'm not sold on any of those guys to just straight up come in and sit a year or two under Stafford.
I agree.
Obviously, I'm no draft expert, so we'll reevaluate when the draft comes. But I would almost not even be opposed to like, man, we okay, Byron Young. Let's just say theoretically speaking,
Hmm.
this is where my mind's at. Okay, let's let Byron Young go. Let's let him walk. I hate to say it. Let's let Young walk. We got 2 first-round picks this year. Okay, the Raiders are in desperate need of talent. Let's pair those 2 first-round picks up. Go get Max Crosby and pair him up with this group and line him up with Jared Verse and Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk and pay him the money you would theoretically be paying Byron Young
Mm.
and rolling with that going into next year. And let's see where our cards lie, going all in. Like, let's go all in.
I
We
like
have Stafford, we have Adams. They said they're going to rock with it until the other retires. If they're willing to go one more year, I am willing to push all these cards in for one more shot at the Super Bowl. And I think, pushing for a Max Crosby or a Super Bowl or a superstar caliber player could put you over that hump because clearly we need some help defensively to match kind of this success the offense is, ready to hit because we had the number one offense this year. And it kind of makes me think back on 2020. We had the number one defense in the year. Then we made some necessary movements and we became, the number one team in the year and won the Super Bowl. Okay, we have the number one offense in this year. Make the necessary plays to go in and be the number one team next year. Okay, I'll let you go off. I know I went on a crazy rant there.
You're good.
That's just what I'm thinking going into the offseason. Don't pay Byron Young. Be smart with your picks. Go all in and try to make your team special going into next year.
I I like where your head's at. I agree. I just feel like Byron Young is a really good player, and I don't think that we would be paying him as much money as we'd have to pay Max Crosby. You know what I mean? Like we would be paying. I don't know. I don't want to sound like I know exactly how much money we'd be paying each of them, but I feel like Max Crosby would be making more money.
I
So
agree.
I feel like we could maybe do maybe a sign and trade where we trade Byron Young and our two firsts for Crosby. Maybe we throw in more. Maybe we throw in a guy like Fisk. I wouldn't want to, but I mean we're gonna have to give up a lot to get a guy like Crosby. But I would love to do it because, like your point that you made, when we won the Super Bowl 4 years ago, we went all in. We got Von Miller. We got OBJ. We had Jalen Ramsey from before. We still had Aaron Donald. We went all in. We traded for Matt Stafford. We traded all of our picks for these guys. Uh, this time, in order to win a Super Bowl, I think they have to do the same. I don't. I didn't really want to say this during the season, but I always had this thought in the back of my head that I didn't think this defense was ready to win a Super Bowl. I know that's hard to say. It's very hard to admit. But if you look how this defense plays in big games, besides in Chicago, I was very happy with how the defense played. But every other big game, the defense fell apart and costed us somehow. And that's not going to win you a championship. There's the old saying, defense wins championships. Look who's in the Super Bowl. The Patriots, who gave up only 7 points in the conference championship, and then Seattle, who has arguably the best defense in all of football. They're in the Super Bowl. And that's why. I mean, and this is also, you got to keep in mind, out of the NFC, no disrespect to Jalen Hurts or Sam Darnold, but this is 2 years in a row, in my opinion, where an okay quarterback is kind of getting, I don't want to say carried because I feel like that's like a casual term, but like the rest of the team is kind of putting them on his back and kind of getting him there. I mean, Sam Darnold had a good game yesterday, but I think
Yeah,
he
he
made
shredded us.
he had a good game, but I think he made one or two impressive throws, and the rest of them were dump offs or guys that were wide open.
Yeah, I
He
mean,
didn't
yeah,
he didn't
for
impress
sure.
me that much. He had great numbers, but Sam Darnold doesn't impress me that much as a quarterback. I'm sorry. Obviously, we all know this. Stafford's way better, and it's a shame because I love Matt Stafford, but could you imagine if he had the Seahawks defense behind him, or he had last year's Eagles defense or that Eagles offensive line in front of him? Could you imagine that? They wouldn't lose a game. I would sit here and argue that Matt Stafford's the best quarterback in football right now. I would
I
say
agree
so.
100%.
And what we're doing right now is not fair to him because he's going to win. In my opinion, he's going to win MVP, or at least even if he doesn't, he's going to be runner up. And in my opinion, he should be the MVP. I don't think there should be a debate. I think Matt Stafford should be the MVP of the league.
I think he will win MVP.
Do you think he'll win? I have a
I,
feeling
I
Drake May is going to win it, but I think Stafford should.
He won the Pro Football Writers Association MVP, and he was first team All Pro by the Associated Press. So I think he will win MVP.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm just afraid that I know all the votes are in, but I could just see Drake May winning MVP and then playing in the Super Bowl. I don't think Drake May should win it. I think Stafford should win it, and that's not a shot at Drake May. He had a great season, uh,
Yeah. No,
but
Drake May's great for sure.
he is. But I think Stafford should be the MVP. And if you have the MVP at quarterback and you don't even make the Super Bowl, that is a problem. That is a big, big problem. You have the MVP at quarterback. You have the best receiver in football. You have another Hall of Fame wide receiver in Devontae Adams. You have a great tight end group. You have a great underrated offensive line, even with injuries, with having seen out with Kevin Dotson out for a bit. They had injuries all across their offensive line all offseason. Their offensive line still stepped up for almost every single game, and they were not the problem.
Yeah, and we outran them. We ran the ball better than they did. We passed almost identically. It was just that one Xavier Smith turnover, and then the defense just couldn't quite make situational plays like Seattle did.
Yeah. And like I was saying, you go to the other side of the ball, and I don't want to throw shade at the defense, but there's several guys I could name that I don't want to compare anybody to Aaron Donald. I don't think anybody has been or ever will be Aaron Donald. I think he's the best defensive player in NFL history, especially obviously in Rams history that we've ever seen. But someone has to make that Aaron Donald play. They don't have to
Right.
play like Aaron Donald their whole career, but they have to make an Aaron Donald play. Let me compare this to another LA team for a second, the Dodgers. We saw them in the World Series this year. Miguel Rojas comes up. He hadn't hit a home run off a right-handed pitcher all year long. He comes up and he hits the game-tying home run. The Dodgers end up winning Game 7, winning the World Series. Miguel Rojas had a a great moment, an all-time moment, but is Miguel Rojas some all-time great player? No, he's not. He's a all-time, glue guy that just is, a seasoned
Role
vet
player.
at the end of his career. Yeah, exactly. But he stepped up and he made a moment. Nobody on the Rams defense did that. We saw Aaron Donald do it 4 years ago, but
Yeah.
since then nobody stepped up and made their moment. And all year long, I hate to call out somebody on my own team, but I predicted Jared Verse to win Defensive Player of the Year this season, and he really disappointed me in the way he played this year. And I don't like to put hate on a player that ever wears the blue and gold and wears the horns proudly. I don't ever like to hate on a Ram, and I'm not. But I would like to point out that I think Jared Verse needed to step up several times. I could count if I had $1 for every time I stood up and said to my TV this year, "Come on, number 8, prove me wrong. Let's go. Shut me up. Come and make a play. End this game right now." I'd be rich. I'd be rich. And guess how many times he stepped up and made that game-winning play or that career-defining moment or that Aaron Donald moment? None. And it's really frustrating because sometimes he just doesn't get pressure like I want him to, and it's just absolutely frustrating. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Jared Verse is the reason the Rams aren't going to win the Super Bowl. That's not the case. Jared Verse is a great player, but he needs to step up more than he did this year. And I
Yeah.
remember, I remember last year after we lost to the Eagles, he said in the locker room that he's going to do whatever it takes to make his teammates not feel like this again, and that didn't happen. So it's not like Jared Verse had 3 sacks yesterday and we still lost, and I'm sitting here blaming him. I'm just not overly impressed with how he played this season. And maybe who knows, maybe it's a sophomore slump or whatever you want to call it. But I think he's got to step up and be better. That's my take.
Yeah, he's certainly got to be better. I think before the season I probably did homer pick Jared Verse, which I didn't believe going into it that that was a huge homer pick. I thought we would have the best defense in the league, and I thought Jared Verse would be, elite. And to his credit, I'll give him some credit. He made the Pro Bowl. He did have that touchdown block against the Falcons. That was great. And I don't know if you know this. He actually did, I think I heard, lead the league in quarterback hits. So he gets to the quarterback, and this group, they get there and they make pressure, but it's like an awful combination of, like, by the time they finally get pressure, they can't quite finish like Aaron Donald could or
It's
Von
too
Miller
late.
could or Leonard Floyd could, and this
Mhm.
secondary just can't quite hold up long enough. They hold as long as they could, and sometimes they make big plays, but yesterday, man, they were horrible. They couldn't cover anyone. It drove me insane. Like, man, it was really tough yesterday. They had a couple of moments, but mostly it was an ugly showing by the defense, and I thought everyone could have been better. I thought Braden Fisk, he had some moments, but everyone defensively could have been better. It was once again an embarrassing defensive effort, and I feel like since McVay, or well, even since before McVay's been here, us as young Rams fans, we've kind of always had, a strong defensive line and had a lot of pride in our defense, with going back to Chris Long and Robert Quinn and Aaron Donald,
James
we've always had.
Laurinaitis.
There we go. James Laurinaitis, my guy, so we've had strong defenses and we've had strong defenses in the McVay era, and I agree. This year, the defense had its moments, but during the second half of the year, they fizzled out and they just couldn't quite finish. And it's just tough because we made improvements to the defense, and it just seems like once again you were a couple holes away.
Yeah. I feel like what you said is pretty spot on with how the defense just fizzled out through halfway through the year. Like I remember the beginning of the year, we held the Texans to what was it, 9 points. Then, the defense was playing great against Philly in week 3 until they fell apart. But then they played a good game against the Colts and they were playing great football here and there. They held Seattle to 19 points when we
They
held them to 9 points.
destroyed Tampa.
We destroyed Tampa, held them to 7 points when Tampa right before Tampa fell apart when they were still a pretty good team. But then all of a sudden, that was it. That was it. And it just fell apart. And if we had the defense that we had earlier in the season, plus the offense we had throughout all the year, I can't see any other result besides us winning the Super Bowl. And now it's not going to happen because I feel like the defense just didn't do their part. And did the defense do their part at times? Sure. We talked about it before when they got the 3-and-out, but then Smith fumbled the punt, and that's 7 points right there. That's not on the defense. I don't blame them for that. But I'm not overly impressed with Seattle's offense, and I don't think they should be scoring 31 points against us no matter what. I just feel like they shouldn't be. JSN is a great receiver, one of the best receivers in football, at least this year. Uh, Kenneth Walker is a great running back. He's going to haunt me my whole life because I'm a Michigan fan. He had 5 touchdowns against Michigan in a game when he went to Michigan State, and now he's a Seahawk and beat us in the NFC Championship. So that name is going to haunt me for the rest of my life. But he is a great player, but I'm just not overly sold on their offense. I think it's just their defense, and we went down the field multiple times on their defense and didn't have a problem with it. We went down the field in just a few plays after they went up 24-13. We went down the field like it was nothing and made it 24-20. And I'm just sitting here shaking my head now because I feel like there's so many things that could have gone different and they didn't. And now we're sitting here with the season over, and it's a shame.
It is
It's
for
just such
sure.
a shame. Yeah, but I I still can't wrap my head around the fact that the Rams won't play till September, and I absolutely hate it. But I do want to go over a little bit now that it is technically the off season. I know we mentioned some guys. You don't want Byron Young back. You don't want Xavier Smith back. There's several guys that you want to keep and don't keep. Is there anybody that's not a Ram besides Max Crosby that you mentioned that you'd want to be a Ram next year that's either going to be a free agent or somebody you'd like us to trade for or draft? Anybody in particular?
Man, I mean it's hard to think about.
I know I kind of put you on the spot there, but I just wanted to see if there was any names on the top of your head.
Yeah, I my mind goes to something I felt like we missed this year. I felt like, and you mentioned this about how like you wish we could have made it work financially because where we spent some of our money with Tutu and some other guys on a wide receiver three. I know Devontae should be back next year and Puka should be back. I got a good name for you actually. We got some of those draft picks. If we end up keeping the draft picks. I think his name's Malachi Lemon from USC,
Okay.
wide receiver. I'd love a good wide receiver three. I've seen some people think that we could get him. If not him, just looking at free agency and see who some top wide receiver three options would be. I know the Cowboys are probably going to bring back George Pickens, but if the 49ers release Brandon Ayuk, ooh, bring him in, stick it to those guys.
Yeah.
I think Ayuk is the wide receiver three with Adams and Puka. I mean, whoever you bring in theoretically, because I mean, obviously, Adams, I think, still has a little bit left in the tank, and Puka is the best wide receiver in the league. So if you just bring in, like, a competent or Pro Bowl level wide receiver, obviously, that's just going to take your offense to the next level. So bring in a wide receiver three. That's my opinion.
All right, I like it. A name that I want to point out, we have what, the 13th pick from Atlanta? I believe it's the
Yes,
13th.
the 13th pick.
I wouldn't mind if we traded up to like top 7 and we get Caleb Downs from Ohio State. Now, I'm a Michigan fan. I hate Ohio State. But watching Michigan versus Ohio State this year, that dude is all over the field. Oh my goodness. And if we had him in the secondary, holy cow, we would be such a different team. He is so good. I've that whole game, Michigan Ohio State, he's just there every single play. No matter if we're running the ball, we're throwing the ball deep, we're throwing the ball short, he's there every play. And I think he would be a perfect fit in our secondary. So if we can trade up somehow and find a way to get him, less need. Get it done, bro. Trade a 13th and trade a corner or something for and go up and get Caleb Downs, man. I mean, I hate Ohio State, but I know I give credit where credit is due. I know talent when I see it. Get that guy in horns, man. I mean, he is something, and I think he'd be a great fit on this defense, and I think he'd be one of the things that could really put our defense over the edge. And who knows, maybe we can trade up and get him, and then we can still trade for Max Crosby. Maybe we're delusional, maybe we're not, but that would be great and would really solve our problems on defense. Now, I know this episode we went over a ton, and we both went on our fair share of rants, but do you have any other thoughts on the game or anything else in general about our Rams?
Yeah, it's a bittersweet end of the year. You love to see what was a first team All Pro year from Stafford and Puka, and I don't want to be completely hating on Byron Young. He's a talented player. Shout out him and Jared Verse making the Pro Bowl. So there was a lot of positives to take with this year. It's just not where as a championship level organization where we hold our standard to, and it's tough when for another year you don't quite reach where you feel like you should be, but we'll rally. We still have McVay, and let's see how the offseason goes and the draft goes, and maybe we're not just quite dead yet.
Yep. I feel like it's really hard to come on here and say really anything positive because it was, I don't know, 15 hours ago our season ended. It hasn't even been 24 hours since the Rams season ended. As we're recording this, maybe it's different as you guys are watching this, but it definitely hurts. I do want to go over a few things before we wrap this up. I first wanted to mention this is going to sound really corny and make me sound like a cornball, but I don't care. So I know Xavier Smith was getting a lot of hate, and you and I both shared that it's probably time for him to go because that's inexcusable in the NFC Championship game, and we're probably not wrong. But the thing that was corny that I want to mention is that I actually DM'd him on Instagram, and I said, keep your head up, brother. The Ramley still loves you. One mistake didn't decide that game. I know you will work hard this offseason to help bring the Lombardi back to LA next year. Also, if you ever want to come on our Rams podcast, Ramblin Rams, you are more than welcome to. God bless and go Rams. So, Xavier Smith, if you somehow see this, somehow hear this, or anybody that somehow knows him, get him on here. We'll show him some love. I know it's really hard. He's probably going through a lot right now. He probably thinks the season is over because of him, but now, was that a bad mistake? Sure, sure. But I feel like a lot of different things can go wrong. I'm not a fan of blaming one player on a loss ever. So, Xavier Smith, like I said, bro, if somehow you see this out of the few hundred views we get, come on here and talk some Rams football, and you're welcome anytime. And that goes for anybody in the Rams organization, obviously. So. I did want to share that, and I also wanted to share something else. This is a very important day in LA sports history. This doesn't apply to the Rams, but it applies to another team in LA, which is the Lakers. It's been 6 years since Kobe Bryant passed away, so I
Oh
just wanted
wow.
to. It's 6 years on the date, which is why I'm
Oh
wearing this
damn.
jersey. Normally, I wouldn't
I
wear a
didn't
Lakers
realize
jersey on a
that.
Rams
Wow.
podcast. Yeah, it's been exactly 6 years. So, like I said earlier, Cooper Kupp, Kershaw, and Kobe are my three favorite athletes ever in no order. And I remember I was actually throwing a football in the backyard with my dad, and my sister comes in the backyard who knows nothing about sports, nothing. Like couldn't she could probably not tell you what sport the Super Bowl was. And she comes back and she goes, "Did you guys hear about Kobe?" And I'm like, "No, like he retired at that time 4 years ago. Like what do you know about Kobe?" And then she told us the news, and I was devastated. So I just wanted to say, rest in peace, Kobe. I know people are probably like, "Why are you talking about Kobe on a Rams podcast?" But anybody that loves the city of LA like me would understand how important that is to our fans. So rest in peace, Kobe. We know you're up there in heaven and hopefully rooting on the Rams and Dodgers and the Lakers and all the teams here in LA. So just wanted to give him a quick shout out. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You guys have been awesome to us this whole season. Jordan, I know I said this the last few weeks in case they lost and then they didn't, but now since they have, I do want to say it's been an absolute pleasure doing this with you. And I feel like every single podcast that I've ever started or any show or anything, most of them, I don't want to throw myself under the bus here, but they kind of flop just because I I don't have anybody that's as dedicated as me to do it with, and I finally found that person to do it with, and that's you. So I really want to say thank you because it means a lot to me. And I've never, besides my dad and I've never found anybody that shares a Rams passion like you do. So I really want to say thank you. Uh, wouldn't want anybody else to be the host of Ramblin Rams with me. That's for sure. And yeah, and you have any last thoughts before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I love talking Rams with you. I too, don't have much Rams fans out here. I basically just, talk to my family who are pseudo Rams fans, primarily Cowboys fans, and just bore them with endless Rams talk. But yeah, I love doing the podcast with you, and I'll always be a Rams fan. Win, lose, or draw. I remember, the years where we won 6 games in 3 seasons. So, it's
Yeah.
it's always darkest until the dawn, and I know this feels like the end, but even if it is our end with, Matthew Stafford, we still have McVay, and maybe our next quarterback can be, really special. And, we still have Puka, and we have a lot of positives to look forward to. So despite what was a heartbreaking end, I'm feeling really good about doing Ramblin' Rams in the future with you, and the Rams' future going forward. I think we'll be doing this for a long time.
Absolutely. And if you guys could subscribe to this channel here at the JT Sports Network and catch every episode of Ramblin' Rams, we'd really appreciate it. This has been episode 16. This is technically the final episode of the first season. This is our first season covering the Rams. So I just want to say, obviously, I thank Jordan, but I want to thank everybody else as well that's watched this, the people that interact with our videos, our clips on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and whatever. Thank you so much. It means a lot to us. We'd love to get out to all Rams fans across the globe because I'm from Jersey, Jordan's from Texas. So we'd love to get to all Rams fans. You don't have to be from LA or St. Louis, just anywhere. If you're a Rams fan, this is the right place. And yeah, we'd really appreciate if you guys could subscribe, like the videos, just so it gets out to more people. I'm not one to normally ask for likes and follows, but if you guys could, just so it gets out to more people and we could grow the Ramley here at Ramblin' Rams and the JT Sports Network, we'd really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much for an incredible season. I hate to see it end this way, but I really appreciate the support. Jordan, it's been an absolute pleasure. And as always, go Rams.
Horns up.